All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'm here with longtime family friend JD Drew. JD, I think we've been family friends for over 20 years or so. What are some of your earliest memories of my family and me growing up? I think you and Dad probably met 20 plus years ago. What are some early memories you have?
No. Well, I can remember you guys coming down to spring training quite a few times.
Mhm.
One of the times, it was freezing cold. Waves were 5 footers, and you guys had drove all the way from Valdosta to West Palm and met us at the ocean. And I don't think you stopped the whole way down. Y'all got out of the car. You were in some trouble. I think you or Thomas was in trouble. I can't remember. And the deal was take your licks from your dad. You've been arguing in the car the whole way. Take your licks or go get in the ocean. And I can remember your dad. I mean, y'all love the water and love to swim, but I can remember him he couldn't stand it. He had to go try to get on these waves, and he was trying to convince you guys, hey, it's better to go get in the water than get the licks. And I remember when he went out to the ocean himself, y'all stayed behind and said, he'll never remember to give us the licks. So he was in the ocean. Y'all didn't want to get out there because it was too cold. And two little boys were like, nah, he'll forget. He won't do it. We're not getting in the ocean. So just fun times. We always, Shay and I hung out with you guys a lot before we had kids, and whether it would be duck hunting or fishing or just
Flashlight and see.
Yeah, just something. Yeah, I mean, y'all were kind of like my brothers and I. We were just always in some sort of mischief, and so I think it just kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah.
Of, free range parenting. You just let the kids get outside and play and have a good time. And I had to talk to your dad a few times, like, hey, you better go get those boys. This is probably not a good idea what they're doing. So
That sounds about right.
yeah.
So I want to get into your career and ball a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit about your childhood and upbringing first. You had two great parents, two younger brothers. Just tell us a little bit about like growing up in rural South Georgia, even before you started playing ball, just maybe some of the jobs you had growing up, maybe economic situation of your family, just some childhood memories you have.
We didn't have a lot of money. Mom and dad was a labor guy. He just, he had an opportunity to be an accountant with the Coca-Cola company that was here in Valdosta. And I think he got a semester away from graduating with an accounting degree, and it kind of pulled the rug from him, like, hey, there's not going to be a job for you.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, he had to make a decision. How is he going to provide for his family? Can he finish up school if there's no job waiting? I guess Dad was really good with numbers. I learned these things after the fact. He passed away last summer. But he was just really, really gifted with numbers, and now going through all of the stuff in his house, I can just bank statements and stuff filed away over the years, just kind of an accounting mindset. But he went to work after that job fell through. I think he went to work for Pet Dairy. Pet Dairy was a milk company here in town, delivering milk around different businesses.
Yeah.
And then they went under. I don't think they went under. Maybe they just moved their location or something. And so he lost that job and then started building boats at Bayliner Marine. And he did that for well over 18 years until I was into pro ball. Mom was a parapro in the school just to kind of help a little bit with the financial situation at home. And, we were up at school. Me, Tim, and Steve were going to school. So she would go and, run copies at the office there. And so combined income wasn't very much, but we didn't, as boys, we were outside playing. And you mentioned sports and athletics. I think Dad was super into competition. I was talking to my uncle about it. He would go to the VFU games and yell at the umpire. He didn't have his Canada game,
Yeah.
And basketball games. They went to all the sporting events in town before we were even playing in the sporting events. And so, me, Tim, and Steven, I grew up a big football guy and played flag football all the way from 5 years old till you start tackle, and then all the way up through ninth grade in high school. And by the time I was 12, I started playing a little bit of Little League ball, baseball it is, and I just enjoyed it more than football. I hadn't grown yet, and I just didn't like putting the helmets and pads on in 100-degree heat and 2 days, and football camps and all that stuff. And so I can remember going in and talking to Dad about having to quit football, just stick with baseball. And so those were just fun times. Most of the stuff we did was in the front yard. Friends driving from Hayhire to Valdosta would kind of the running joke was, JD's hitting, Tim's pitching, Steven's playing shortstop, Granny's at first, and Dad's in the outfield, Mom's at third, because it was just a constant, baseball game going on, or a football game, basketball, whatever we, felt like doing for that day. And that's just where we built a lot of hours of just, growing our trade and what we did. And but yeah, Mom and Dad just they provided in a way that they knew how. We would take a vacation here and there, go up to the mountains. But we didn't have a lot, but we didn't know we needed a lot. So
yeah. So what age did you start playing baseball?
Well, like I said, we did everything. Every sport that seemed to be in season, we were always doing something like that in the front yard.
Amongst yourselves?
Yeah, just amongst ourselves. Yeah, I didn't play in a league ball, boys and girls club, until I was 12. And just from all the stuff we did in the yard, I just picked her up. My next door neighbor played on a team. He's like, "Hey, you can ride with us." And so I on a lot of rides there. And just baseball was different then. There was none of all this travel ball stuff. And I just enjoyed it a lot more, just because each team was kind of native to wherever you lived. And so we lived in Hayhire, and the boys in Hayhire would form a team. And if you lived in Lake Park, you'd form a team, and everybody met a couple of times a week, play games at the boys club. And there'd be 8 or 10 teams, and you'd battle it out and make it to the playoffs. There was always seemed to be one team from Valdosta that would go around try to stack their team, recruit, and they were always a little bit better. But it was the way baseball should be played, I think.
Yeah. So you started playing baseball, middle school, like on an organized team?
Wasn't on a janky team.
We're not. So you started playing baseball middle school, high school?
Yeah, I started playing boys club at 12 years old. I guess middle school at that point.
Yeah,
6th grade maybe. Led the league in hitting. Danny Redshaw's the local coach here, coached at Lowndes. He was the boys club coach. He selected me for the All-Star team as an alternate. I didn't make the team. I didn't get voted on the All-Star team.
Wow.
So he picked me as an alternate. And he told family or dads that may be upset that their kid was not playing in front of me, and I'm the alternate. And he said, "Well, if your kid out hit him this year, he can play in front of him." I led the league in hitting, but I didn't make the All-Star. Yeah, and he recognized it, and he just said, "Hey, you're on the team. You're my starting center fielder." So that was fun. We had a great time. That was kind of like where travel ball is today, where you have the best. But I like that because the league played its season, and then they selected the best players in the league to form what technically is a little travel ball team, and you went to like a regional play and then state play, and then the season was over. So you got to square off against really good teams from, I think we played Vidalia in the state championship that year and lost that game. But that kind of just was exciting. And I think it got my dad excited because I was just really good at baseball. I could hit. And then I had to start to develop, what it looks like, because I didn't really understand the game.
Yeah.
So finished at the boys club in the next couple of years, and then high school started. And then, of course, you tried, Lowndes, high school, and make the team or don't make the team. And so I played a lot of ball there, played for both the JV and the freshman team, and then, carried over the next year. I started playing with varsity teams. So
at what point, because you played high school at Lowndes, then you went on to play at Florida State, at what point did you realize you had a unique gift? Like you potentially could play professional?
I just love baseball. I could hit, just hitting was, I could run really fast, and I could hit, and I could throw. I mean, God had blessed me with what they would call a 5-tool baseball player. Five different tools in the game of baseball. I could hit for power, I could hit for average, I could run, I could throw. Steal bases. There's just things that, you watch the game today, and some guys are really good at certain parts of the game. Like they can hit for power, but they may be slow, but I could, it was just one of those things I could do all of them, and I enjoyed it. Again, football had gotten monotonous and putting the pads on and
running.
Yeah, just killing me out there. I mean, Randall Godfrey was out here, Anthony Tart, and these guys. Randall Godfrey went on to play for the Dallas Cowboys. I went across the middle my 9th grade year, jumped up to catch a ball, and he kind of grabbed me and set me down on the ground and said, all right, I said, thank you, sir. Like he could have broke me in half. He was squatting 700 pounds or something at a time. So, he was fun to watch, but I was done with that. So baseball was, for me, just kind of a reprieve from football and something exciting to do. So.
Yeah. And you go on to Florida State. I didn't realize, we've always known you were a great ball player. We watched you play our whole childhood in the majors, but I didn't realize until I went to your jersey retirement at Florida State 10 or 12 years ago, I didn't realize how great you were in college. We talked to some of your teammates, and they were telling us stories, and they're showing videos of you on the big screen, robbing home runs and hosing people from right field and stealing bases. And so you had an incredible career at Florida State. Tell us a little bit about that. What was that like at Florida State? How were your years there?
That was, so playing football in South Georgia, you followed Florida State or Georgia, and you don't follow the Gators at all.
We don't follow the Gators.
Yeah, we don't want to do this. But I love the Seminoles. My dad he was a Seminole fan. I love Bobby Bowden. I wanted to go to Florida State to play football.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I quit playing football, and I'm like, wait, there's a great baseball coach at Florida State. And so between my junior and senior year, I went to Florida State baseball camp. They didn't know who in the world, Jonathan Drew from Hayara, Georgia. They had no idea, and they used their camp as part of their recruiting. They get guys that pay money to come in to play, in this couple 2-3 day camp and learn some stuff. And but they were kind of scouting players too. And again, I just, in those showcase moments, you get a chance to take a few swings on the field. In the Lord's providence, I just always shine in those moments and hit some home runs and just killing the ball. And that led to a recruiting process of Jamie Sheep was a recruiting coordinator. And so I built a relationship with Jamie. They recruited me to play in Tallahassee. I didn't know that you're not supposed to start your freshman year. You're supposed to sit and ride the bench and watch the game and learn. But I was like, I'm a baseball player. I don't want to sit on the bench. I want to play. And so I went in it and I could hit, and they quickly could see that I could do things that maybe some of the guys that they had that were upperclassmen couldn't do. And so I played right away, and it was just, the dream come true for me. It's close to home, and
family got to come in and watch
it. Friends, family, friends, there were people always around. And but some of my great friendships are still from teammates there. And I set my goal to have just a, good year freshman year and above, an above average year my sophomore year, and then, do something special my junior year. But it just so happened that I had just a well above average freshman year, and then a really great year my sophomore year that led to Golden Spikes year my junior year. And so my career there was just great. Hit a lot of home runs, learned to play baseball from Mike Martin. I didn't have any idea. Cut off in relays, stealing bases, reading pitchers. I didn't know anything about all that. I was just a raw, talented player that needed some polishing, and they were really good at that.
So I had some of your numbers because your junior year, you could argue it was the greatest year ever in college baseball. I just had to screenshot some of these stats. So you win the Golden Spikes Award in '97, which is the Heisman Trophy of college baseball, most outstanding player. You win the Dick Hauser Award. You still hold the all-time record at Florida State in on-base percentage at .521. But here's some of your stats from your junior year. So you batted .455, which is nuts. I couldn't bat .400 in a church league softball.
Hey, that's crazy. We won't hold that against you.
That's crazy. So you get .455, 31 home runs, stole over 30 bases, just remarkable season. So if you weren't on the map before or after that year, now you're going to be a top pick. And so you get drafted, but I know there was I read there was some kind of controversy with like number 2 overall pick and the 5th, or what happened there?
Yeah. So, yeah, you set a trajectory. Freshman year, I go in the College World Series.
Yeah.
Hit 3 home runs in a game, hit a walk-off game-winning home run in game 1. That puts me on the map. People are watching. I'm a finalist for Golden Spikes my sophomore year. Then my junior year, everybody's like, okay, this guy is the player to watch. I still don't think anybody's ever done a 30-30 season in college outside of that year. That was when 30-30 was a big deal. I mean, it is a huge deal in Major League Baseball to do 30-30, but I think Canseco had done a 40-40 season. I think Chauvet's done like a 50-50 season.
But it's half the games in college.
Yeah. So half the game. You don't give any games. So to do it in college was a pretty cool deal for me because Canseco had done it and people were talking about it. And I'm like, yeah, again, you only play about 70 games in college and they play 162. It's a different level of competition. And I thought, hey, this is a good goal. So yeah, you go into that year and there's expectations. Is he going to live up to them? Then you start living up to them. And obviously the baseball draft is coming up. There are teams with high picks. So the year before in 96, there was a loophole in the draft where some guys didn't get tendered a contract on time. So the way it works, I think, was Major League Baseball has a draft. You select your player. You have 30 days to send them a contract that says, hey, here's what we're offering, and it has to be within that 30-day window. And teams have gotten kind of sloppy, and they weren't following through. And so an agent filed a grievance and said they should be free agents. The teams didn't follow the rules, and they were declared free agents. And the guys were declared free agents were now able to command what an amateur player true value, what it really looks like.
Yeah.
And so a couple guys got $10 million contracts, and just because teams were able to say, we want you, and it made a bidding war to show that amateur players are really they're super valuable, especially these elite level upper, draft picks. And so the next year, everybody's like, oh, well, now JD's going to be asking, and paper started writing in Philadelphia in particular, who drafted me, started writing stuff like he's asking for $13 million, he's asking for this, and they just writing all this negative press, and it was setting precedents. I remember actually talking to my agent Scott Boris and saying, man, they're saying somebody quoted me as asking for $13 million. I never said that. And he said, look, it's just they're putting it out there. It's just setting. They know what the level should be.
We're trying to set the market.
Well, they knew the market had already been set the year before.
Yeah,
and so before the draft happened, there were some talks about getting to a certain position in the draft, and I knew that I wasn't going back to Tallahassee to play my senior year. So if you utilize your agent to do and talk to teams, then you forego eligibility.
Yeah.
And I just told Scott, I said, I don't think I'm coming back. So we need to make sure we're using whatever leverage points we can.
Mm-hmm. So you start out with St. Louis, play a few years there. That's when I think you and my dad met, and when you started hanging out with our family. And then you go to Atlanta. What was it like playing for your home state team for a couple of years? And Tim also playing a little bit with you, right? Did y'all intersect?
Yeah, Tim came for about 3 months toward the end of the year. He was in the bullpen. Yeah. I was in St. Louis. My opening game was the night before. Hit 62, so he broke the Maris record, and it was a pretty big deal. And chased history, hit 70, and I played 6 years, 6 seasons there. They traded me in the winter to Atlanta, which I was pretty excited about. Playing for Bobby Cox, just being home and being able to come home on an off day, and again, it's just nice to have friends and family coming up and hanging out. So that was probably my best statistical season in the big leagues, was in Atlanta. It was awesome. Bobby Cox was a great manager. Enjoyed tremendously playing for him and with guys like Chipper and Andrew and Smoltz. And we had a good time. And then Tim being over there is the only time I got to play against Steven. Never got to play with Steven, but only time Me and my brothers, outside of me and Tim, played a little bit of high school ball together, and we just didn't play together. So
Yeah, that's cool. So then you go on to the Dodgers, and then I'll talk about Boston in a second. But just talk a little bit about, I mean, obviously every boy growing up wants to be a pro ball player, and there's a lot of, blessing that comes with that, a financial incentive and fame and everything. But there's also a lot of, I can imagine, a lot of pressure externally, internally. You got, trying to live out your faith in a secular environment. You got, other challenges just from team and ownership and everything. And then you got, I'm sure, a lot of temptations thrown at you. So just, I guess, talk a little bit about some of the pressures you face, some of the challenges as a pro athlete, just what that looked like for you, especially as a believer in a secular environment a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, it's just where the Lord put you providentially at that time.
Yeah.
Somebody was talking about it the other day on the phone. I was talking to a guy. He said, "What's it like doing all that travel?" And I'm like, "Well, Shay and I were talking, could we go back and do it? Like, how do we do it? Just playing, whether it be Boston, St. Louis, Atlanta, LA, the travel's crazy." And I think the business aspect, when you're getting paid to do a job, there's those expectations are there. You got your manager that needs you to perform, and you have a lot of drive to perform well yourself. You set goals. Those things all stack up. I think internal pressure is much greater for me. I'm a kind of internally process things, and so I keep a lot of my emotion in, and then I'm battling through. Like in LA, I started the season 0 for 25. I mean, I just signed a big contract. Now they get a hit from the first week, and I'm like, man, they expect a lot out of me, and now I got to figure out how to dig myself out of the hole. I talked to my son Jack about it in college right now. I'm like, you cannot go up to bat because you've been going bad and try to get 2 hits in one at bat. It's just it's impossible. But it feels like you want to do that. You're like, man, if I can just get 2 hits somehow in this one at bat and get my average up. But it's a game of failure. If you're a Hall of Famer, they say it all the time. You hit 300, but you've still failed 7 times out of 10 at bats, but you can still be called successful and part of the best of the game. But yeah, it's just a world, Bible tells us Christians are in the world, you have to be of the world. Mm-hmm. And the elite level athlete, whether it be pro baseball, football, basketball, there's all kind of opportunities and temptations that arise in that. You got money, you're young, you're famous. So you got to be guarded. And for me, my mom and dad raised us, to say that I've been in church 9 months before I was born. You know what I mean? It's just been part of who I am in my upbringing. And, my dad by nature is probably a fundamentalist, and that's, as a baseball player, you're a fundamentalist.
Yeah.
You do things by the fundamentals. And so, he raised us in a way that was a structured house, and there was discipline. And those things carried over when I was in the pro game, just to say, hey, I got to avoid, to avoid these things, you got to be in the Word. We try to set up, a few guys will do a Bible study. We do things like that. Baseball chapel was big. We utilize that on Sundays when we played. A chapel guy would come in and lead a Bible study. So we would do things like that. But if it wasn't for my upbringing and my mom and dad's influence and, having my Christian faith, boy, there's a lot of trouble out there.
You see it today too with pro athletes. A lot of them just can't handle the stress, number one, and then the pressure and the money, and it just gets down, and they don't know how to handle it. So I want to pivot in just a second, but before that, you go to LA, have a couple really good years in LA. You sign a deal with Boston. You go to Boston. So in 2007, I think it was your first year in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all going to win the World Series. But I'll never forget this. We're all in the living room watching you play ALCS. Y'all are down to Cleveland, I believe, right? 3-1.
Right.
And then you win the 5th game, so you're down 3-2. And I'll never forget, you come walking up to the plate, bases loaded, Joe Buck, just foot in his mouth.
And he's like, telling the truth.
He was like,
I mean, it was completely accurate to say that he hadn't gotten a hit in 11 at bats.
I was going to say 11, and I couldn't.
So 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position.
0 for 11. It was strikeouts. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you had to bring up the strikeouts. That was a fun time. Yeah. I left LA. We had Jack in 06. So in 07, I signed. Shay was pregnant with Ella. And middle of that season, we found out Jack had bilateral hip dysplasia. And so he went through a major surgery halfway through the season, full body cast for like 8 weeks and a brace. And it was just tough. It was a tough year, transitional year from the National League to the American League. Big city. The Northeast is the most difficult place to play as far as the fans really know the game of baseball. I mean, they love it. It's freezing cold and dark all winter long, and then they get this summer reprieve where it's just nice weather and the sun's out, and that's the sport,
Yeah.
And
They're passionate.
Fenway Park is a great place to play. And my year had not gone well. I just, I wasn't hitting for much power. But at the very end of the season, I started to kind of find a little rhythm and something. I brought my average from like in the 230s up to 270 before the season ended. And then we go into the playoffs, and I just couldn't keep that rhythm. And I came up. It was funny. The game that we had to win, must win, was in Cleveland, Sabathia versus Beckett.
Game 5.
Game 5, and Beckett throws a gem. Sabathia gets knocked out of the game. I come up on deck because I didn't play that game. Bobby Kilty played that game and played in right field for me because it was lefty versus Sabathia. He was a right-handed hitter. So when Sabathia came out of the game, I said, "Hey, you're going to hit." Well, I had been struggling with this. I use a bat called a C243 from Louisville Slugger. It's just a bigger barrel. And for whatever reason in the game, I hit BP with him. Okay, but in the game, it just felt too heavy or whatever. And, early in my career, I used a bat model C271. It's a smaller barrel, a little bit more balanced. And I just thought, man, what do I got to lose?
Yeah.
Bobby, can I use a C271? Because I didn't even have any of my, my name on it. So I just said, I'll take this up there because this other one's not working. And in that game in Cleveland, I hit a double off the wall to center field.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and I got looked in and say they were laughing because I was using this bat. Well, I'm thinking, man, I'm so good. I might try this in the game tonight. Well, Terry Francona moved me down in the order because I was 0 for 11 with some strikeouts, and he needed some guys at the top of the order. So he moved Mike Lowell up to the 5 spot and dropped me down in the 6 hole. And sure enough, we're facing Fausto Carmona in the game. He's throwing 98-mile-an-hour sinkers up there, and we get the bases loaded, and I'm like, oh, great. Manny Ramirez is coming up, and in Fenway, place is going crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure on you as a player. That's because you got to win this game. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, at least when I come up, at least when I get in the bat, it'll be like 1-2 to nothing. These are 2 good hitters. Mm-hmm. It won't be so much pressure on me.
Yeah.
Well, Manny strikes out. And Mike swings at the first pitch and pops it up.
So you got 2 outs.
Now there's 2 outs. I was like, it was supposed to be 2-0.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So I get up, and I was always really good at working the count. And then I get a 3-1 count, and that's when you probably remember Buck saying those comments, or maybe he said it when I walked up.
But yeah.
I said, man, if he throws me a sinker, starts Bill anything, I just took a nice swing and hit the same ball. Mm-hmm. that I had in Cleveland with that bat.
Yeah.
But I'm standing on deck doubting myself after Manny struck out. I get on deck and I'm like, should I be taking this little skinny bat up there, or should I have been using the one I've been using all year? And he popped it up, and I'm going, oh, man, I got the wrong bat. And then I hit the home run. I'm like, I got the right bat.
Yeah.
So I keep using it in the playoffs. And the next at bat, I come up and I hit a line drive back up the middle that almost killed the pitcher. And we're up 5-0. We win that game. We win Game 7, then we go on to sweep Colorado
in the World Series.
That's my only World Series appearance and championship, but it was pretty special. It comes in my first year in Boston.
Yeah.
Then we played the postseason a lot in Boston. I had some really, really good games in the postseason, but we never made it that series.
So when you hit that grand slam, I'll never forget me and Thomas and Luke and Dad are all watching. We're probably in our white tighters or something, and you hit that grand slam, and we're just going nuts in the living room, just running around. And I think you ended up ALCS MVP, right?
No, I don't know. No,
I did.
I didn't. I was the All-Star MVP the next year.
I remember that.
I don't know who got the MVP.
I thought you did.
ALC. No, they should have given it to us.
Should have. I mean,
what we just get back? We need to go back and protest that.
Yeah.
Somebody probably had a better series than me. If I was 0 for 11 with 4 strikeouts, they'd
Hey, but you hit it when it counted.
yeah, that's what it mattered. Maybe they gave it a Beckett or something. I don't know who got it.
So then you'll go on to Colorado. You sweep in the World Series, so you win the World Series. Then the next year, you just alluded to it, All-Star game. I remember you got crazy hot right before the All-Star game, and you go in as a reserve.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that game?
Yeah, I was Poppy was not swinging well, hurt something month of June, and they moved me up to the 3-hole, and I just excelled. And
Just like 11 home runs or something.
Oh yeah, 11 or 12 home runs that month, and that was so I had a chance to make All-Star teams in St. Louis, Atlanta, and this was the third opportunity. I had a really good year going to St. Louis, and David Wells broke my hand. I had like 21 homers. We were only 2 months and a week into the season, so I didn't get on that team. Atlanta, I highly deserved to make it. Bobby Cox fought really hard for me, and he was really PO'd that they didn't put me on the team. And I was just like, hey, it's just meant to be. I'm going to go home, do whatever. And so this was my 08 season was a really, really good year for me. Francona, because we won the year before, he gets to pick reserves. We had a lot of guys going to the All-Star game that year.
Yeah.
He walked up to me in the outfield and he said, hey, just check and see if you want to be on the All-Star team. I said, Skip, look, man, I had, like, at some point in time, it would be nice to look back with my kids. I was an MLB All-Star.
Yeah.
You know, like, these other 2 opportunities got taken from me. Yeah, I mean, it was going to fall on him. He felt like, man, I got to pick my own guy. And, you know, and that I think we ended up with 7 or 8 All-Stars out of the Red Sox on that team. 6 or 8, I can't remember. But he didn't have to do it because the players voted me in, which is probably the highest honor a player can get. It's not the fans,
Your peers.
but your peers, because they recognize, man, this guy's having a great year.
Yeah.
He deserves to get in. So they told me, hey, I didn't have to do it. You're on the team. And I remember asking Tito in the outfield in Yankee Stadium, you know, Red Sox, Yankees, they don't get along very well. We're out there, you know, having BP the day before the game. And I said, hey, am I going to play? Well, you know, he goes, we only got 6 outfielders. He said, Ichiro's going to get 2 or 3 at-bats. You're going to go in for him. Or we're just going to swap everybody up. And I go, okay, great. And I was like, wow, I'm kind of getting nervous then, like thinking, oh, this is an All-Star game. And I think Ichiro maybe took 3 at-bats, but we played, I don't know, we played 14 or 15 innings. And so I ended up with 5 at-bats. And they said that the ball that I hit the second could have been scored a hit. Dave Magnan was our hitting coach, because they should have scored that a hit. They gave Ugla an error, so I could have been 3 for 4, but I was 2 for 4. But the big swing came when we were down 2-0. And they had a guy warming up from the Cincinnati Reds in the bullpen. And I looked down there because we had our whole coaching staff there because we won the World Series the year before. And I told Dave Magnan, I hope I get to face that guy. Because when we played against him in Cleveland or in Cincinnati, he was tipping his pitches. And I knew when he was throwing his changeup and when he was throwing his fastball. So I was like, man, if I get to face him, and sure enough, he was warming up. We come in, we get a runner on, and I'm on deck, and they bring him in, and I'm like, heck yeah. And he was tipping his pitches still, and I knew it was coming. So
Magnet.
Yeah, so that was that tied us up to 2-2 and launched us into the rest of the way.
Went forever. It was like, it was in 15. I remember watching like 15.
I was so wound up. I almost came into pitching, which was big. Now that would be crazy.
Wild.
Yeah, because I had been on Francona to let me come in and pitch at some point if you ever get the blowout game in the big leagues, whether you're winning real big or the other team winning real big, they'll save the bullpen and just bring a position guy in.
Yeah.
But I had a nasty knuckleballs. I mean, it was really
Wakefield.
Yeah, like super nasty. And there's a guy named Manny, the bullpen catcher of Red Sox, and I would warm up with him in between innings. He would come out of the bullpen, he'd throw a ball to the center fielder, me and him would warm up, and I would fire knuckleballs to him. He goes, man, I'm telling you something. He said, I catch Wakefield. This is equal. This is nasty. I think mine a little bit harder. So I had been kind of like, that arrogance, like, yeah, I'm on the side, I can throw these nasty knuckleballs. I never faced a hitter with it.
Yeah.
They would have probably killed me, but I don't know. It looked nasty to me. And I know that Jacoby Ellsbury wouldn't play catcher. If I throw him one knuckleball, he would just walk away. He wouldn't want to play anymore because he thought he was going to get hurt. So I'm in the dugout and I said, who's coming? I told him back and I said, who's coming in the pitch? If this keeps going, I don't have anybody left. He goes, you. And I go, yeah, I've been kidding Tito, but it was no, I'm serious. This is going to be you next inning. And I go, oh,
this is like the 15th inning or
yeah. And so we're hitting, and I get on deck, and then I get up at the bat, and I draw a walk and load the bases.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went on like a sack fly or whatever.
Yeah. So you're MVP of the All-Star game, the one appearance, MVP,
take you to the house.
Yeah. That's the way to do it.
Yeah. Well, you need to go once, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're going to go once, you might as well go in.
Then you win a car or something.
Yeah. I want a bootleg Chevy Tahoe hybrid. Now,
Yeah.
That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
You can't make a Tahoe.
And I made you pay like tax.
Yeah, you got to pay ridiculous. You got to pay like half the value of the car in taxes. And I'm like, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was hoping they'd pull the curtain and it'd be a Corvette or something. But
yeah.
This is a hybrid.
An Argo. Remember the Argo?
Yeah. That was it.
Not river that thing.
Yeah, we don't need to bring up those memories. That is a memory. That's for sure.
That was crazy. So you play 14 seasons, have an incredible career, and retire at what, 38 or 39? 36. Retire at 36. So married, 5 kids. What do you do post retirement for or just keep your kids sleeping? And what kind of hobbies do you have?
Well, I hunt and fishing I love.
Yeah.
But I don't get to hunt anymore because my kids have taken over that. They make me the hunting guy.
Yeah.
So I drop them off, then I go back and take a nap, and then I let them sit too long in the dark and get scared. Then I go pick them up. Fishing, go down the ocean, flats fish, and but most of the stuff we do or I do would be, I do some real estate work in Dallas. Really enjoy kind of keeping my mind engaged in the business side of things. So I've been able to take some of the money that I've made, invest it in real estate, and I really enjoy doing some of that. We're starting we've got a coffee company that we partner with Melissa's. Melissa's is a big produce company in California.
Okay.
And we got a company called Herb's House Coffee Company. And so we're working that through to get into grocers all over, the U.S. and wherever else. And so that's kind of fun. And
Kara's perked up when you said coffee.
Yeah, everybody has had a cup of coffee, and it's been a fun process there. That's kind of a new venture. And yeah, but other than that, I plugged in with the Mailbox Club with we're doing Bible lessons all over the world. Our local church here in town heavily invested in that and putting time and effort into that. So all of that, along with, you said 5 kids, it's a chore to get everybody where they're supposed to be on time.
Yeah. You got a big guard you do every year.
Nah, I gave it up.
I did.
My kids started, it was too hard, man. It's like, you got to give something up.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things. And the farm up in North Georgia took a lot of work the last couple of years. Some friends that I had working there had to go see about their mom. And man, I tell you what, you don't appreciate somebody until they're gone.
Yeah.
And it was just the work that they put in there and we were trying to do. And so you just gotta manage time. I'm more busy now as far as just trying to micromanage all these moving parts. Baseball seemed pretty easy to, because you were just at the task at hand. Just get to the field, get your work in, play the game, rinse and repeat. And you just did that for 8 months of the year.
Yeah.
Spring training for 6 weeks. And, you come home, you take a little reprieve, then you start working out again, getting ready. But, we enjoy what we do. It's just, it's busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I've probably hunted with you since I was this tall right here. We've been in duck blinds and dove fields and we deer hunted with you up on your farm. I got to tell the story of one of the first times we went fishing with you and Keaton. So we go and get these kayak. You had the kayak, the kayak with a motor. You were propped up on your perch.
That was Shell Point.
Shell Point. Yeah, you had a cooler full of Smuckers and Snickers and Mountain Dews. And so you talk us in these little pedal kayaks. And so,
well, that's the best.
So it was me and Luke, which, I was just up with dead weight at the time. He was like 12. And then I think Thomas and my dad. So we're in these pedal kayaks. We're out fishing off
Y'all were broke.
Dark Island.
Y'all were broke when you got here.
We get out there and you're just jetting around. I kid you not. JD, we've always said he's lucky fishing. There's obviously a lot of skill, but he's just jerking fish left and right. I look up one time, he jerks his pole and a fish flies up in the air, pops off on the hook, and lands in the boat. A fish jumping in the boat, literally. So
that's how that works, man. You gotta simulate the fish.
Yeah. So we're out there just pedaling and killing ourselves. I remember me and Luke, we just got to the point where we didn't care about fishing. We just wanted to get back to shore. And so we're pedaling our tails off. And I look up probably 15 minutes later, and we're in the exact. I'm looking at the same house I was looking at 15 minutes ago. Just killed us out there.
Yeah.
But we spent a lot of time fishing and Keaton and hunting and all that kind of stuff. So, want to pivot real quick. I know for both of us, we would say faith is the most important aspect of our life. Who are some people that have shaped you as a believer? Some men or women that have had a profound impact on you from a faith standpoint?
Yeah, I think we all could look back at, God's providence, and I just come from a long line of godly men. I feel, I hadn't researched all of my grandfathers, but I just know there's a history there of faithfulness involved in this area, in churches. And so my dad was influenced by his dad and his granddad, and that goes down the line for an extended period of time. So, first and foremost would be my mom and dad. They had the biggest influence just because they were faithful. Whether we were in town or if we're in the mountains on vacation, we would find a Baptist church somewhere and spend a Sunday with other believers, and that was important to them. So it became important to us. And then you run across different teammates and, your dad, just friends that you surround yourself with that you have common, whether it be hunting and fishing that you enjoy, step by step with each other. You're like, hey, this guy can sharpen me, I can help sharpen him. And,
yeah.
But I was heavily influenced by, Dr. John MacArthur and his ministry in California, just through the Grace to You access with whether it be tapes or, online. And I studied a lot from him, and that really kind of has formed me outside of baseball. In baseball, it's just tough. You're surviving. You're not really it's hard to get involved in the church family. You're using baseball chapel as your church, and coming home in the off season can kind of be a task because now you got fame attached, especially when I played in Atlanta. Everywhere I came in, went to church here in town, it's like, it's like,
yeah,
man, you just kind of want to get in the back and listen. But it's just hard to plug in somewhere for 3 months and be a part of that church family and then leave for 8 months. And then, so you're not there. So you learn to do that with your teammates, Mike Matheny and Andy Bennis and Adrian Gonzalez, and just different guys that were believers that we could do these things together.
Okay.
But when I got out of the game, my business partner, Kent Steinbach, has a massive impact on me, and he was on the Grace to You board. And matter of fact, when I met Kent in 2008 for the first time, he came out to Boston. We had a mutual friend. He brought me an iPod. This is when you could just download everything. He brought every sermon that John MacArthur had ever preached up to that point on this iPod. It was just slim. I didn't even know what to do with it.
One of those ones where you don't have a screen. It's
I had a little screen. You scroll through it, and it just said Genesis. So I click on that, then it would say chapter 1. I click on that, then there would be all these sermons, verse by verse exposition, but hours,
get you all the sermons you needed for.
Well, you got it, and you're like, you just click on Genesis 1 through 3, click hour long. And then the next day, he did that one again in like 2 hours, and then he moved from 4 through verse 5. And so expositionally walking through it. So I didn't even know what to do with it at the time. But when I got out of the game, Kent's influence, I started to steer more toward MacArthur's teaching and other guys, R.C. Sproul and Voddie Baucham, and just guys in that movement of Reformed teaching. And it's just it's been monumental. I just enjoy now just books that have come out that they have written or recommended. I got a Shepherd's Conference out there in Grace Community Church, and a lot of that stuff has an impact.
Yeah. So I think, I'm sure we both spend time in the Word every day. If somebody were to ask you for a book or two that's really impacted your life besides the Bible, what would you recommend to somebody?
Well,
you like to read?
Yeah, probably my favorite to give away is by J.C. Riles, called Thoughts for Young Men.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be read just by young men. It's an impactful book for anybody to read at any point in life. And he's just making the point that, young men make the excuse that, hey, God, I got it. I got everything under control. I'm healthy, I'm vibrant, you don't need to worry about me. Go help the person that's sick. They need you worse than I do. And when I need you, I'll let you know that I can do this.
Yeah.
And he said, that's Satan's ploy to make a young man think, hey, I got the world by the tail, I can control it. And then when you're on your deathbed, whenever that comes, Satan's in your ear going, you can't ask the Lord for help. You didn't do anything for him when you were healthy. How can you go back and ask him now?
Yeah.
So he uses it on both ends. But that's just a really, really good book. You know, you can always say, you can turn to the other maybe bestseller book of all time and Pilgrim's Progress, and just kind of the allegory of how that ties into your Christian walk. There's so many good books out there. MacArthur has so many of them, but I just encourage people, you know, mainly to study the Bible. And MacArthur would say, hey, read a book, you know, a short book like 1 John every day for 30 days. You know, it's 5 chapters. You just read through it, try to apply it to memory, highlight, make notes, mark it, and then the rest of the Bible, just kind of read through it. And, you know, I've taken that approach with our youth group now at church. I've been going through the book of John for probably, I don't know, man, maybe 8 months or 9 months. I don't know how long we've been doing the class. But yeah, it's just, you know, I'll pick up, you know how it is. You know, there's a book, A Way to Pray, that was written by, I think it's Matthew Henry that wrote the book, just with prayers, you know, you read through, and just formulate scripture into prayer to help you meditate through scripture and pray them. Those are great books on just pick it up, read a few pages, and literally pray the prayer back to the Lord using scripture. So there's all kind of books out there, man. You can get into, you know, the history of stuff and looking at maps and all this stuff. And I think I utilize, you know, reading, maybe I utilize YouTube as much as anything when it comes to just my daily study. And, you know, I don't know if you've seen the YouTube guy, Expedition Bible, where he's traveling around to all these places. He just released one that was about the crossing of the Red Sea, and he went to where the location would be between the two mountains, and you see it. Like, you know, we think, hey, they crossed the Red Sea, but when this guy's in a kayak, you know, the government's coming out there going, hey, what are you doing out here? But it's just a massive body of water, like 6 miles wide. And it just puts things in perspective, you know.
Have you been to Israel before?
No.
I gotta go.
Yeah.
I went 3 years ago with Francois, and it just makes scripture come on.
Puts it all together.
It just that's what visual learns.
And Expedition Bible does a great job for those that can't go, just to see it. He did a really cool one with maybe the tomb of the Pharaoh that was there when Moses said, let my people go, and the son that's in the tomb.
Yeah.
He's got some really, really neat stuff on there. But yeah, to see it in person would be awesome.
I need to check that out. So just kind of to wrap up in the next few minutes, I went to Oklahoma City this past week, the Hobby Lobby headquarters. We heard from David Green, just really remarkable family. They give away 60% of their profits. They're into $10 billion revenue this year. They give 60% of their profits away. But David talked a lot about stewardship versus ownership, and, you know, how they not only verbally, they say that it's God's company, but their actions corroborate what they say. And they put the whole business in a trust. The kids had to sign away their shares. It's really a remarkable story. I've always known you to be really frugal. I mean, I could tell stories. I think my dad said one time you cut up a Chick-fil-A sandwich because it was cheaper than an £8 or something, stuff like that. I mean, you've driven a truck for 10 years or whatever, and obviously God's blessed you financially, but you've chosen to be really frugal. And you got nice stuff. You have a beautiful house, and you fly your own jet and everything, but you've always been really frugal. Where does that mindset come from, and why be that way? I mean, you don't have to be.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's just in my nature. Like I said, we didn't have a lot growing up.
Yeah.
Dad had to manage a little bit of money and make it go a long ways. And I don't, what I do is I tend to buy the big things. You know, I'll just jump in. I loved, you know, I became a pilot in '08, and because I'm a baseball player and have the ability to buy an airplane, and, you know, I put some money down and to purchase that plane, and half of that money was in reserve for a jet when they came out with a jet. I said, well, I want to fly a jet. And so, it didn't get developed for 13 years. And then I get an email saying your jet's going to be ready.
What, 21?
Yeah, 2020, right before COVID is.
Yeah.
Your jet's going to be ready next year.
It's 12.
And I was like, wait a minute. I forgot I had that money down on that jet. Then I started trying to figure out how to get out of it and get, can I sell this thing and make some money? And some guy encouraged me, said, look, just go flying. And, if you don't like it, then we'll sell it. And that ended up being, I'm still flying it now, and it worked out great because I'm doing so much more business in Dallas. And so I had to go back and get trained and do all this stuff. I built a simulator in my attic. And so I pick and choose, but I think the thing for me with finances is not necessarily being frugal in the way that we had to as a family growing up, but just being good stewards.
Yeah.
And trying to use it as stewardship. Like, hey, I don't need to be wasteful here when I know that $1 or less than $1 can get Bible lessons to a kid. And I tell my kids all the time, I don't know the impact, and I hope one day that we end up in eternity in glory, and this little kid walks up and goes, hey,
yeah,
you're the guy that sent me that Bible lesson. And it's going to be like, wow, yeah, because we don't know the impact that has. So a lot of that stuff for us is, hey, let's be mindful of how we're spending, because we want to be able to provide for, the Mailbox Club ministry, or the charitable trust for John MacArthur, or your local church. And people in times of need, you can just write them a check and say, hey, we got you here. And I think that's what the guys at Hobby Lobby are saying. They're just like, hey, we want to have successful businesses because this is our tin making business, right? You want to be able to do kingdom work, and some guys are better at making money than others, and you don't want to hoard it all in and oh, it's all mine, I'm not going to do anything with it except for sit on it. We try to use strategy. Shay and I talk a lot about, just kind of where we're going, what we're doing here, and, how do we help this grow, or how do we help the Mailbox Club? And so that's been fun. But I think it's just the nature of how I grew up. Yeah. It's just kind of saying we didn't have a lot. The tendency is to say, when I do go big, or when I do buy something, it's big. It's like, man, you cut up a Chick-fil-A sandwich, but you bought a jet. Well, I mean, how does that work? But it's just part of the thing that, the Lord's put us in a position, and baseball is a lucrative sport. I made all my money up front. Most people work till they're 60, 70 years old.
Don't enjoy it on the back.
Yeah, they don't get it. So I have to make sure it's managed wisely, because I don't have any other thing. No other income.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
David talked about, he wrote a book called Giving It All Away and Getting It Back Again. I'm really excited to read it. But the stories they were telling, he said the hardest time in his life was the point where they were making money hand over fist in the 80s or 90s. Hobby Lobby's just blowing up everywhere. And he said the hardest time in his life was realizing that money could ruin his family. He said he just got down before God and just laid the business out before him and said, it's yours. And they ended up, like I said, they put it all in a trust, and the family meets once a month now to decide where that 60% is going to go.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it's Ronald Blue or somebody wrote a book called Splitting Hairs, Heirs. And it's just talking about the damage that some of the founders of this country in making money did to their families. Yeah. Just because if you don't have to work for it, it has a different, you see people that have inherited a lot of money that doesn't have to work. Yeah. It's a whole different way in the way they spend that money than the person that was really frugal that built the company. Yeah.
So you and some other friends of yours started a church a few years ago. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Emmanuel Bible Church. Started in 2019. And first couple of years, we just met, watched MacArthur, watched Modi Bacham, just watched videos online, and just to see, the direction we wanted to go was very similar to MacArthur's ministry exposition. Yeah. And we were just hoping that the church would continue to slowly grow and see some fruit there and growth, and then we would find a pastor at the point in time where we could, afford him, that we had a church that was going to stay together. A couple of years into it, I reached out to a group in California at the Master's Seminary, and they had a guy, Robert Wahab, that was in Sharpsburg, Georgia, that I was friends with already and hadn't met. And so we just launched into a few conversations with him, and it just led to a point where we asked him and called him to be our pastor, and he's been here nearly 5 years now. So
Wow. And God's blessed your church.
yeah, it's growing. We got a bunch of faithful people and very diverse, and it's just we have sweet fellowship time. We're gonna it's pretty neat to see how it's all unfolding. We're in the process now of getting some plans designed to build just on the edge of town, and so that'll be a big stair step and probably a big growth point for us when we do finally get a building.
Yes.
Or one of my friends was kind enough to let us use his space to meet, and we've just kind of slowly filled it up, and hopefully we'll continue to fill it up until we move into a new building.
Robert's an incredible Bible teacher. We did that Bible study years ago, and he's got a unique gift for explaining the Bible and breaking it down in a way that's understandable.
I think Robert's probably one of the most gifted young pastors, just for his love of the Bible, but just his love of books. And I mean, this guy, we were just at a Shepherd's Conference, and if you want to find Robert Walhoff, he's in the book tent with thousands of books, just trying to figure out how to get them all home.
I've seen his library.
It's crazy. It's really crazy. So, they said there's a series of books that says, why Johnny can't preach, and basically the gist of the book, without having to read the whole book, is because Johnny doesn't read. So I think a well-read pastor that spends time not only in the Bible, but just digging through other thoughts of theologians throughout history can gain a lot of knowledge there. And Robert, I think he's got a photographic memory. He's just one of the best.
Really, and a good message doesn't just come together. There's a lot of work and preparation.
Oh, yeah. And he spends hours and hours every week, and that's been a pretty special time for us to be a part of that every week and to see the growth there. And I've been encouraged to have my family plugged in and watch my kids get taught that.
Yeah. And last thing I wanted to talk about with you, we hear a lot about legacy and everything like that. And God's blessed you with a great gift to playing baseball, had a great career, and now you're doing a lot of business stuff. But when you think about legacy and your kids and your grandkids, how do you want them to view you one day when you're gone?
Well, I think it's all important that any dad raises his kids with the opportunity to hear the word of it. And I know when I look at my granddad, I have great memories of walking in on the farm and my granddad sitting in a leather recliner with his Bible up. I can remember walking in Mom and Dad's room at any point in my life, and they had a Bible, studying for Sunday school or whatever it would be. And, I just, hopefully, I'm up early, Shay's up. We're, kind of turned our dining room into our office.
Yeah.
Just because it's, I go look out the window, and it's just you're interacting with the family, whether it's, love to cook. So we're doing that up and down, but I'm sure there'll be fond memories for the kids one day to go, yeah, Dad and Mom sat here and they did that. I've seen your granddad's Bible. I've seen your dad's Bible.
Tattered.
Yeah. And I saw my dad's when he passed away last year. Shay, had found his Bible, and it's this brown leather Bible. And my mom gave it to him right after I was born in November of 1975. She gave it to him as a Christmas gift and wrote in there, "There's no other gift that I can think that you would appreciate more." And so those are things that you look at, that legacy that they've left. And, I kidded my mom one time because, we've grown up in church our whole life, and you're at a high school level and your friends are doing crazy things. But, I became a Christian I professed faith in Christ at 16, probably became a believer around 12, but, I was just getting edgy and friends were dating girls. And it's just like, so I made this comment to my mom one night. I said, "I'm going to go out drinking with my friends tonight." And she didn't say, "You better not do anything like that." She didn't get upset or anything. She goes, "Well," she said, "we raised you different than that. And your last name's Drew. And I just, I hope that it carries some impact. Like you realize what your last name is. And, well, who you represent.
Yeah.
And I was like, geez, Mom. Like,
That hurt way worse than
yeah, I was like, no, I'm not going to go. I was like, I was hoping she's like, you better not do that way. I'd be like, I was like, well, she pulled that one over on me, So, just looking at those kind of things, I think legacy, just similar to your background with your grandfather and your dad and the legacy of the Mailbox Club. We've all been impacted. There's been people all around impacted by the Mailbox Club. I didn't take the lessons, but it impacted me back in the late 90s and 2000s when I was able to come in and be a part of the ministry and help support it financially. And then later on be put on the oar and do some things and see the work that the Lord's doing there. I think we all, if we have that opportunity to have a legacy that we leave, we impact our kids and they continue on, much like the Hobby Lobby family may do that. I just hope and the desire would be that Jack and Ella, Lucy, Henry, and John would all say, hey, I'm going to take what my dad leaves me and continue the work of the ministry and just seeing faithfulness to the Lord to raise their kids the same way.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have. Thank you for
doing.
Appreciate it.